everyone, to the April board meeting for Ignite CDA. If you'll all stand and remove your hats and help me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. It's time for public comment. Any public comment, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar, approval of board minutes, meeting minutes for March 20th, 2024, approval of special call board meeting minutes for April 4th, 2024, approval of payables as submitted, and approval of district monthly financial statements.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Those that are opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. Mr. Burns, the Executive Director's Report.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. So a few items to share with you today. The first one would be the Atlas Project Architectural Design Guidelines Modification. I shared this information with you, but I'll go ahead and kind of read through it. The SMOC development team has requested architectural design guideline variances regarding garage door color and glazing, including the allowance of windows in garage doors facing the street. The SMOC development team has approached the Atlas Project Architecture Design Review Committee, which is comprised of Phil Boyd with Welch Comer, Hillary Patterson with the city, and Dale Hatch from Bernardo Wills with this suggestion. Providing complementary color and glazing options for garage doors will allow all developers to use these elements to de-emphasize the garage similar to characteristics already included in the design guidelines. The SMOC team feels that these design changes will produce a more saleable product for the Atlas project. After review, the ADRC has approved these suggestions and recommends that the architectural design guidelines be modified to allow the suggested variances. The Atlas Waterfront Master HOA Board has approved these proposed modifications, and we bring that forward tonight for your consideration. So on the screen, you will see in blue text the suggested modifications to the design guidelines. So the first slide up there says garage, at the bottom left says garage doors may have glazing or be complementary colors to the building color or be wood grain per section 1.8C on page 38 of these guidelines. The second slide in blue shows the additions. Therefore, garage doors other than alley-loaded garage doors shall be painted to match the body of the home or painted an approved complementary color or to be a wood grain as approved by the ADRC. And finally, garage doors with windows are subject to ADRC approval. Windows shall be less than 25% of the surface area of the garage door. So those are the modifications that are suggested. Everybody agrees with those. They think that it will add value to the overall project if those variances are included. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Seeing no questions, you,
One quick question. Will this change apply to all the rest of the developments in the district or only the ones who currently requested this?
It applies to the entire Atlas project area.
Thanks.
any other questions, comments?
Need a motion?
Sorry?
Do you need a motion?
Yes.
Yep.
I would move to approve the architectural design guidelines, to modify the architectural design guidelines as presented to us this evening. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next up is the Atlas Project Phase 3 Atlas Road Borrow Backhaul Initiative. This is kind of probably the second time this is coming forward to the board, but I'm going to kind of bring everybody up to speed on the background on this one. So following the January Ignite CDA City of Coeur d'Alene CDA Planning Commission workshop, Ignite CDA asked Welch Comer engineers to develop a Phase 3 market rate development concept while still retaining some opportunity for local worker housing. Welch Comer developed the layout that you see on the screen. which consists of about plus or minus 56 twin homes and plus or minus 28 townhomes, and completed a conceptual level grading plan to estimate within 10% how much fill material would be needed to bring the site up to developable grade. Over the last several months, the Welch-Comer team and the city staff and Ignite have evaluated several borrow backhaul sites to generate phase 3 structural fill material. Efforts focused on city-owned assets close to the Atlas project site to keep costs as low as possible, since the fill material will be free, with Ignite just having to pay for material haul and placement. The following city-controlled assets were evaluated: Southeast Way median, the Atlas Park open green space, and a parcel located on Atlas Road, which you see depicted on the screen by this little yellow pin up here. This is the Atlas Road site. The city plans to transfer this Atlas Road parcel to ITD for a future stormwater swale for the I-90 lane expansion project. After evaluating the different options, it was determined that the Atlas Road borrow backhaul site was the preferred option. Ignite asked the city to allow Ignite to borrow 75,000 cubic yards of structural soils from the city parcel and to backhaul about 60,000 cubic yards of non-structural phase 3 materials to fill in the excavation created by the structural soil haul-off. As part of the Ignite City ITD partnership on this project, Ignite's contractor would finish grade the site to ITD's desired swale configuration. So following additional work with the city and ITD on this proposed initiative, the quantity of borrowed structural fill from the Atlas site has decreased to approximately 64,000 cubic yards, and the backhaul of non-structural fill material from the phase 3 site has decreased to approximately 20,000 cubic yards. So that's a huge drop in what we can take to the Atlas site now, thus necessitating a strategy of blending some portions of the phase 3 materials with the Atlas Road borrowed structural fill materials to produce structural fill materials on the phase 3 site. So we'll bring in some of the good stuff, we'll kind of mix it with some of the better bad stuff to create buildable materials on the site. Mr. Boyd will kind of share in more detail about how that will work later. So working with Welch-Comer, Ignite evaluated options for either bidding out this borrow backhaul project or negotiating a change order to La Riviere's existing Atlas project contract. Bidding the project out would allow Ignite to receive definitive construction market pricing, but would require detailed engineering bid documents and a longer project schedule. Even though negotiating a change order with Riviere does not directly confirm market rates, it does require only permit-level engineering documents and can be completed in a shorter time frame. The proposed negotiated Atlas Road borrow backhaul contract with Riviere has resulted in a total cost of $16 per cubic yard, which includes a material blending strategy and all pertinent costs like traffic control. This initiative is still very cost-effective for Ignite, since buying structural fill in the open market and placing compacted on the site would cost in the $30 cubic yard range. So $16 versus $30 per yard. The following table on the screen there summarizes the two options. You can see the bid item here. If we were, the item here, and then if you bid it out versus a change order with Riviere. So you can kind of go down and you can see the different time frames, estimated construction time periods, the cost for design, construction documents, bidding, negotiation phase, construction phase services, construction costs. There's a range there because that's just about the best the Welch-Comer team could come up with what it would cost on the open market. And you can kind of see the estimated costs there. So it appears to be more strategic to look at a change order with Riviere. In the process of negotiating with Riviere, Welch-Comer utilized competitive intelligence in arriving at the cost values that reflect the current construction market. So Ignite CDA staff recommends that the board utilize the services of Riviere to perform the Atlas Road borrow backhaul initiative at the price negotiated by the Welch-Comer team. The Riviere team has been and continues to be a valuable contractor for the project, often offering up creative cost-saving solutions for issues that arise on the project site. At last night's City Council meeting, City Council approved the Atlas Road borrow backhaul initiative with the following two conditions: that a plan be in place to repair any ped bike trail damage that occurs, and the ped bike trail be opened back up to the public by July 1st. Should the board elect to move forward with the Atlas Road Borrow Backhaul Initiative as proposed, a change order number 6 would be needed to the La Riviere Atlas project contract. La Riviere would be given a notice to proceed on April 22nd with a substantial completion date of July 2024. So the La Riviere change order number 6, CO number 6 equates to about $1.9 million. And you can see on the screen, it involves hauling approximately 64,000 cubic yards of structural soils from the Atlas Road borrow site to the Phase 3 site. Backhauling approximately 20,000 cubic yards of non-structural Phase 3 soils to the Atlas Road site. Blending approximately 30,000 cubic yards of Phase 3 non-structural soils with Atlas structural soils. And remediating 10,000 cubic yards of Phase 3 unconsolidated structural soils to the consolidated condition. So I'm going to invite Mr. Boyd up to kind of walk through this more complicated table to kind of explain to you some of the vast elements involved with this change order number 6.
Thank you, Tony, Chairman Hoskins, and board members. So as Tony has nicely summarized, this has turned into a relatively complex process, which is why you see so many pay items up here. And just to give you a general idea of the way that an earthwork project like this moves forward, is we have gone through and to the best of our abilities estimated quantities of materials that we anticipate moving, taking from Atlas and blending and doing those things. But we don't know exactly what that will entail because we don't have a complete picture of what Phase 3 looks like. We have a pretty good estimate, but it's not a complete picture. So the way you mitigate risk to both the owner, Ignite, and the contractor is you develop a unit pricing contract, and then you have an agreed upon method to measure and pay those items. So that's why you see so many pay items here. One of the things that Tony mentioned is originally we had intended to do this project very, I'm trying to think of the correct adjective, very efficiently. So we were going to go over to the Atlas site, haul a bunch of structural soils from there, 75,000 yards, and then take back 60,000 yards of non-structural. When ITD became involved, the limitations that they put on that site, which we can talk for an hour about them if you'd like, because it's part of a federal highway system and it's not necessarily they're choosing, it's just the world that they live in, really narrowed the lane with what we would be able to do over there because their testing requirements for material that we haul there are very high. How the site is designed is very restrictive. And what would happen is just the testing requirements alone would potentially result in things where we would have to stop construction. And as soon as we stop construction, it's not like the contractor can just send everyone home. He puts them on standby. So we kind of quickly worked through that math, and we could do it, but you're not necessarily getting anything for that, right? You're not getting a product that adds value to Phase 3. So we stepped back and said, well, wait a second. And Tommy was a big part of this because we're brainstorming in the conference room. What's a way we could change our means and methods to create value at Phase 3? So if we're going to go spend more money, let's create value at the end of the day. That when you sell the Phase 3 product, you in theory get more money for it. So that's where the blending idea came from. I'm going to kind of quickly switch to this other presentation. And so this is sorry, let me pop this up real quick. This is the Phase 3 site, and you can see this is structural soils ready to go. There's structural soils over here. The areas that we've got to deal with are here and in here, where we have to go mine out of those areas. There's some soils in there that are just beyond the suitability for structural soils. The problem with them is they have over optimum moisture in them, so you can't easily work them, and they have maybe slightly higher organics in them than what the geotech will allow to put in. Well, as we haul material in from Atlas, through an additional process, we can take a little bit of the Phase 3 material, a little bit of the Atlas Road material, blend it together, because this is just a more complicated. And so that was our attempt to add value to that. We're also doing some topographic things in here. There's retaining walls in this area along in here, and we're designing those to be shorter retaining walls, cost less. And then we're working on elevating these home sites a little bit more so they have potentially better views to the river. So I'll show you one other image here. This is the Atlas site, and without getting into a ton of details, these are actually, we were collaboratively designing this at one point with the ITD's engineers, where we're sending them our design and they're tweaking it and they're sending it back to us and we're re-estimating it. This is one of the products that they sent us, and ultimately where we landed on. The pink line here shows the boundaries of the property, and you can see the swale is tucked right in here. This is what that's going to look like. It's quite a bit deeper than what ITD originally anticipated, and that's the big value that we're getting out of it. But we're not doing a lot of hauling back non-structural soils into.
I do have a question. Do we know that the soil at the Atlas Road site is all good soil?
Yes, yep, because there was borings, there was a water well that the city had constructed, their test well that they had done, so we have the soils logs from there, and then ITD had soil data, that we looked at their soil data as well. And so it's low moisture, granular soils. So it's just what we need. It might be too low moisture, but we have lots of high moisture soils at our site.
And one other question, the date showed there was that finished July 23rd, and the city wants it complete and patched by July 1st, the bike trail?
They would like the trail open to the public by July 1st.
And any patching, though, any damage fixed?
Well, yeah, it's usable by the
By
public.
July 1st?
Yeah, by July 1st.
But the date shown was July 23rd.
That's for the project to be complete. And so we could complete the trail within that July 1 window, if that's a requirement.
Okay.
Yep.
So Phil, you mentioned that there's some additional costs associated with this and the blending, and you described a geography that could now be a buildable site rather than just green space in between. Has a financial model been run to describe what additional density would be required in the neighborhood to offset those costs for saleable lots?
Not at this time, because we're still not quite sure where the board wants to go on the ultimate use of Phase 3. I think our goal right now is to, kind of get it developable and then have the board kind of weigh in on what, if any, level of affordability do you want to inject into the Phase 3 project. And then I think that'll help us further design what happens out there.
One follow-up, Commissioner Meyer, on that. The current financial model shows those lots at about $85,000 a piece is the residual land value for them. And so kind of some quick math on that, 5 or 6 lots. If we were to create 5 or 6 lots more, we could recover the additional costs that were in there.
That's the napkin math I was looking for. Great.
Yep, there
Thanks,
you go.
Phil.
Mr. Chairman, Tony, I think it would be helpful for me and the board and the community to be reminded of the bid process versus, and any requirements around a bid process, and then change order. Do we have any requirements as Ignite, like I know some of our city departments do? I think that's
The requirements for the bid process are the same for Ignite as they would be for the city, and we're able to proceed on this basis because we already went through that process to hire Taylor Riviere, so we are able to modify that contract based on that original RFP process.
Thank you.
Other questions?
One final element of this agenda item is, if the board is willing to move forward with this initiative, we would also look for approval of Task 1, 3B, and 4 of the Tetra Tech testing proposal regarding the non-structural fill material previously that they submitted to the board. Remember, in the past, you've authorized 2 of the tasks to date to kind of get the initiative going, so we would look to approve the remaining Task 1, 3B, and 4, which totals about $39,500. We hope to minimize the needed testing with this blending effort and other elements, but we just need to go ahead and make sure they're on the team since that is a requirement from our partners. So I would look for a couple motions if the board chooses to move forward with this initiative. One for delivery air change order number 6, and one for Tetra Tech testing for task 1, 3B, and 4.
Do you want those as separate motions?
Yes, please.
I would make a motion that we approve the La Riviera Atlas Project Contract Change Order number 6.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Excuse me. Thank you, that motion carries.
I would also like to make a motion to approve Tetra Tech Phase 3 Non-Structural Fill Testing Proposal, Tasks 1, 3B, and 4.
Second.
That also is moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those that are opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And finally, just invite Mr. Boyd back up to just give a general Atlas project update.
Bill, how quickly are you going to start this?
So the La Riviera will start the sorting process on April 22nd, so next Monday. And then the haul process from the Atlas Road site will start May 6th. You would see work at the Atlas Road site before May 6th, but the haul process will start May 6th.
And how many weeks will this take in total?
Their completion date is, I think it's July 23rd, and one of the things, for complete clarity, if the board really dug into the change order in there, you would see a very aggressive liquidated damage provision of $5,000 a day, which is very, very aggressive. But part of that in the negotiations with La Riviera and our partners at the city, these projects are disruptive to the community, and that's why Tony was pushing us so hard, and we were pushing ourselves hard to try to get this done in the springtime as soon as we could, so we would minimize the impact during the summertime. Things didn't shake out that way, but we were strongly incentivizing La Riviera, and Tommy was in agreement with it. We negotiated bunches of terms in there, and that LD, liquidated damages provision, and will motivate him to be finished on time. And of course, if something comes up that we didn't expect, he'll raise his hand and say, wait a second, there was a fire in the roundabout for 3 days. I need 3 days. And we would give him those 3 days. So, but it's a tight time frame, and he'll put a lot of forces on it. Okay. I have a pretty short update. So on Phase 2B, which is the top part of the project, just to refresh everybody's memory, Topsod, Jammer, and Hartwood are ready for curb. So when something's ready for curb, that means the underground's done, which that's a big positive thing. La Riviera has planning on starting on curb. They'll road the curb machine in April 24th. That will progress. There's a bunch of sidewalk prep already done, and they're prepping for asphalt. This is a snapshot of their schedule, and you can see the final completion date, and this is with landscaping, is July 24th. The other big date is paving, hot mix asphalt, HMA paving, is there in June. This may creep up a little bit depending on availability, but Tommy's really pushing his crew to try to get as much of this done, and we can kind of exit that area and button it up and be done. And just a couple of snapshots here. This is kind of what the site looks like now, but that's been the primary work that's been going on out there right now. This will still developer, but we're doing some other things on this side of it, but this will allow all of his trucks to enter and exit right here. And all the things that you saw on those roads, Hartwood is here, and all the operations will stay east of that.
So, just because of the traffic flow there, are they going to have to go out, turn right, and then go down and turn back?
Yes, I think that was the one excerpt from the traffic control plan I didn't leave in here, but, let's see. Yeah, I don't have it in here. So yes, there'll be flaggers here and on the other side. And so when a vehicle starts to exit, the flaggers will stop traffic in both directions, and the trucks can move through. Because without getting way into the details, that's the other thing you end up negotiating with the contractor is cycle times. Because, you know, he comes up with a cycle time and I come up with a cycle time, and of course, my cycle time is always lower than his cycle time, but I don't count on car accidents and rock chips and things like that happen. And so we work through those things and agree upon a traffic control plan and negotiate cycle times, then arrive at numbers for the unit pricing.
Let's
Follow-up
see.
question, Phil. On the graphic you have up there, it looks like the Centennial Trail is continuing along the side of Celtice with a piece yet to be completed. Is that part of the HMA paving timeframe that you were referencing in the previous schedule? I guess what I'm thinking about is the ped bike trail linkages, because we're going to take out a link up on
Yeah,
Atlas, and
yeah.
thinking about what are the reroutes and the detours, because there's 3 weeks where kids are out of school and there's activity on the trail, and I
Yeah.
appreciate the city's discussion of July 1st, but just trying to think about other route finding there and ways to
yeah.
make that easier.
Yeah, this one won't happen before, it might happen in the paving that is in the Phase 2B,
Okay.
which was sometime in June. We should be able to fit that in June, shouldn't we?
The problem is then we'd have to
Oh,
have
you're
more
right.
flaggers.
Yep, no, you're right, we wouldn't. This trail has to stay closed until we're done with the haul operation.
You don't want cross.
Yeah,
there.
so
Okay.
it'll be after July that we'll do this. And you can see this big pile of soil right here was the protection, the fall protection from the trail through here, because people still use the trail. It is rugged, there's no question, but it's still usable.
And if I recall correctly, the profile of Celtice still has a bike lane on the street, though, so there is passage there for ped bike
Yeah,
activity.
well, good point, yep, correct.
Perfect.
And the trail is north.
Yeah, and the trail on the north side too.
Dan?
Well, one follow-up question on the backfill project and the path, and I think I maybe saw an email today. I mean, last night when we had our council meeting, you know, I think the idea was that it would be like totally shut down for whatever period of time, but then I thought I saw something today where maybe there would be a way to let there be some, safely still have some bike trail traffic, or?
There is, Commissioner English, this is the traffic control plan, and you see the two flaggers right there. The entrance and exit on the Atlas Road site will come right through here. And we have planned to put temporary fence along the western edge of the trail and put flaggers here. So if someone comes along the trail, they could stop them when the truck is crossing, and then let them go. So we have currently planned for the trail to be open as part of this process. Ignite is paying more for that.
Yeah. Well, then we should take advantage.
Yeah, so just to be clear, and some of that came out of our pre-permit discussions with the city staff, that they were kind of anticipating what council might come up with or what the requirement might be. So we just decided to put it in and leave the trail open.
Yeah, and I think that's good, because in the, you know, the span of everything we're doing, those extra flaggers and stuff, I mean, won't make much of a dent in the project cost, but the benefit of not having it totally shut down is a big deal, so.
Well, your city engineer, Chris Mosley, deserves credit for that.
Well, we don't want to
decision.
send those bikes down Masters Drive or something.
Yeah,
Phil, how many hours a day will you be actually hauling through there?
you'll start at 7 and stop at 4. 5, 7 to 5.
6 days a week.
Yeah, 6 days a week.
Okay.
So it is a lot of work to jam in, and there's a ton of complexity both on this end and on the other end. And back to one of Tony's earlier points about negotiating or putting it out to bid, one of the advantages of being able to negotiate with the contractor is we get to try ideas on him that we think we're gonna go do it this way. And if it's very similar to a design build project, and working with them, there's several ideas that Tommy came up with just on this site that we were able to drop the project cost. It was a requirement of ITD, and we kind of worked through it and had another idea, move the road over, save some money. And so it's been a very collaborative process, and at the end of the day, I think it results in a faster product and at a more competitive price than we would get otherwise.
Any more questions?
I have one last question. What's the latest on signage?
Good old.
We asked that question today as well. We have the signs are, the redesigned signs are in La Riviere's wheelhouse for repricing some of the changes on them. And they're permitted, but honestly, the answer to that is we've been so focused on this and other things for months that we've been telling Tony, we only got so much staff time and we should probably prioritize it here. So, but that's both on La Riviere's list and our list to move forward, but they're permitted and we just need to get the prices updated and move forward with them. Okay,
You sure that was the last one? There's no hurry.
thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Tony. Next on the agenda is time for board commissioner comments. Any board commissioner comment? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Jeff, that's a wrap.